first presenter is really, really going to speak to all you number and analytical types. You know, we all know that the real estate market is changing and shifting, and this is the perfect opportunity to kind of take a peek at where we are and where we're going. So he is the CEO and co-founder of Aryeo, not to be confused with Aryeo. If you are not familiar with Aryeo, I promise you, by the end of this conference, you definitely will be. One of his first jobs was actually as a real estate photographer just out of high school. For a look at the state of the industry, please welcome Branick Weix.
Thank you. Good morning, PMRE Conference. Thank you for the warm introduction to our co-host. My name is Branick Weix. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aryeo. I'm excited to get us kicked off this morning with a 30-minute ad on why you should use Aryeo for your business. I'm just kidding. What I am here to do is hopefully share some interesting stats and insights about our industry. Now, before we get started, there's another elephant in the room, and that's that this year, something is different. We're in the same venue. We're back in Vegas. I see a lot of the same faces in the audience. But as many of you may have noticed, this year, photography for real estate, PFRE, is now photography plus media for real estate. Photographers are no longer just photographers. Photographers are media companies. You don't just take pictures. You take videos and floor plans and 3D tours. This name change is the perfect summary for everything that's been going on in this industry over the last few years. This is going to be the focal point of my presentation today. So to get started, let's take a look at some of the macro trends of what's going on in the U.S. real estate market. Up first, this is the U.S. interest rate going from 2014 to 2022. You can see really over the last 7 or 8 years, this interest rate has been pretty steady in working its way down and down. In fact, at the beginning of 2022, interest rates in the U.S. were below 3%. That was almost a 20-year low. The effect of this is that the last few years have been one of the hottest years in the U.S. markets that we've seen. Now take a look at 2022 over there. Look at how quickly interest rates have been rising and rising. This is going to have a big impact on all of our businesses. It's going to have a big impact on new listings and buyer demand out there. And let's dive into how this is already impacting new listings in the U.S. This chart here, this is from Redfin. This is month-by-month, seasonally adjusted new listing counts in the U.S. On the left side here, or kind of in the middle, you may notice that big V. That dip, that was the COVID pandemic. You can see how quickly new listing counts in the U.S. dropped down, but then how quickly they came right back up. And not only did they return to their normal levels, they came back up to new record highs in the U.S. Now draw your attention over to the right side, though, and you'll see that in this end of the summer and this fall, we're already seeing a noticeable decline in new listings nationwide on a seasonal adjusted basis here. In fact, in October, we are seeing more than 20% decline year over year for new listings. This is a big change. This is a big slowdown. This is going to impact everyone's business. Now, I'm not just here to share bad news. Is there any good news in all of this? Yes, I think there's a couple good stats that we can look at and take away from here. First up is inventory. Inventory, you can see in 2021, 2022, there was just no houses out there. Houses were selling super fast. I'm sure everyone in the audience had clients reach out to them and say, hey, I've got a new listing. Can you just do some quick photos? I don't need the whole package. I don't need videos. I don't need 3D tours. Just come in. We got to get this property listed. You can already see that inventory is picking up. It's taking longer to sell homes. I think this is a good trend for the industry as we get back to normal. All of a sudden, there's a greater emphasis on photography and promoting properties and getting consumers to actually go visit those properties in person. The other good stat that I want to call out here is the median sale price. This is from 2019 to 2020 and today, 2022. And look at how much your average home price has risen in the U.S. Compared to 3 years ago, homes are selling for 35% more. So even as transactions have started to slow down, homes are still selling for significantly more money today than they were a few years ago. That's an important thing to note. Now, how does home prices impact your businesses? Well, let's put this into a couple different words for you. Up first, homes are now selling for 35% more today than in 2019. In other words, agents are making 35% more today on commissions than they were in 2019. This next chart, this is the agent commission pool year by year in the United States. 2022 here on our far right side, expected to come in at about $100 billion. Look at that compared to 2019. That's that 35% increase from the beginning here. This is a massive increase, and when we put all this together, we've got homeowners now selling homes for 35% more. We've got agents on a per transaction basis making 35% more. My question to the room would be, in your businesses, are you making 35% more per order over the last few years? This is a big increase in value. I think the companies that are capturing this value here have started to do it by both raising their prices and selling new products, videos, floor plans, and 3D tours. There's really four main categories of rich media that we look at. We've got pictures, videos, floor plans, and 3D tours. Let's take a look at what we see for a content mix on our platform for how popular each one of these contents are. Up first is videos. This data here is from our platform. This is quarter over quarter for the last 4 years. You can see this initial jump up in quarter 2 of 2020 for videos. About 20% of properties that we saw had a video attached to them. It's kind of stabilized since then. Today we see about 15 to 20% of properties having a video. This is national. This is just an average. Some markets are significantly more. Some markets are significantly less. So your business may be doing more. Your business may be doing less. Hopefully this is a helpful benchmark here for what we see for videos. Let's take a look at 3D tours now. Look at that initial jump up here from COVID. Almost 1 in 4 properties we saw had a 3D tour attached once COVID hit. They've kind of come off since then and have started to slow down. They're typically in the 10 to 15% range quarter over quarter for what we see. Again, this is just an average. Some businesses do significantly more than this. Some do less. There's actually a lot of variability on this state by state as well. So some markets, there's certain types of content that way outperform others. There's really no rhyme or reason, but hopefully this is a good benchmark on a national basis. Last but not least, I think our friends at Keep Acosta and iGuide and all the other floor plan companies will be excited to see this. Floor plans, quarter over quarter, for the last few years have steadily increased, all the way from 5% in 2020 to over 15% today. We typically see more floor plans than we do videos or 3D tours on most properties. Now, that was a lot of numbers. What's the main takeaway? Here's kind of an overarching benchmark. On average, we see 1/3 of our properties having at least a video, a floor plan, or a 3D tour attached. So about 1/3. That's a good number, just a gut check on how many of your shoots that you do have these rich media content attached to them. Now, where's Dominic in the audience here? Where's Dom? Back there? Dom has been very grateful to volunteer to share some of his stats from his own business. So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at what does one photography company look like, not just what does it look like at a national average here. Dom's company, Dom Does Media. I think even off the bat, his name, it's not Dom Does Photos, it's not Dom Does Videos, it's not Dom Does Floor Plans, it's Dom Does Media. He tells agents right up front, I'm going to help you get all of these services across the board. This chart here, we've got floor plans, videos, and 3D tours. These are the national averages that I just showed you guys on the previous slides. Now, I'll need some audience participation. We're going to go through each one by one. What percentage of properties do you think Dom Does Media does that has a floor plan attached to it? Do we have any guesses from the audience? 20, 40, 50? Let's take a look. Dom Does Media, on average, has about 28% of their properties have a floor plan attached. Much more than the national average, and more than 1 in 4 of their properties has a floor plan attached. Do we have any guesses for videos? How many videos? 60? I hear 60. Close. Almost 50% of Dom's properties have a video attached. That's phenomenal. Look at that. He does almost 3 times more than the industry average here. And last but not least, let's take a look at 3D tours. What do we think 3D tours comes in at? 50. Not quite as much as videos, but still 1 in 3 properties that Dom does has a 3D tour attached. Now, this is all across the board, too. Oftentimes, a lot of his properties will have all of this content on there as well. And so what? What does this do? Well, this is new services that he's selling to his customers. This is driving his average order value up significantly. And let's take a look at exactly how much here. In 2020, Dom, on average, was making $479 per order. Today, in 2022, Dom is now making $679 per order. Look at that steady climb up here. There's a lot of reasons for, yes, a round of applause for Dom here. There's a lot of reasons for this, but I think the large parts are both raising your prices and selling more services. If you ask yourself, how are you going to capture that extra 35% of money that agents are taking home? Well, this is how. You sell more services, you raise your prices, you bundle your packages together, and it pays off. You know, he's making an extra $200 per order. If you make an extra $200 per order and you shoot 100 homes per year, that's an extra $20,000 in your pocket. If you shoot an extra 1,000 homes per year, that's an extra $200,000 in your pocket. Your numbers might be different, they might be higher, they might be lower in your market, but you can scale this, and I think this is one of the most important metrics to track in each of your businesses. Now, we talk to a lot of companies, they'll come to us, people are always wondering, do I have a big company? Do I have a small company? How do I stack up to others in my market? Are we doing good? Most of the time, most businesses are much bigger than they realize as well. So I thought it would be helpful to walk through how we break down photography companies by size across the country. We've got 4 main buckets here. We've got solo photographers, small teams, regional photographers, and national photographers. Your solo photographers, they typically operate in one city. They'll photograph anywhere from 200 to 900 properties per year. I'd say your average solo photographer photographs about 350 properties per year. Your best solo photographers in the country, they're going to be doing over 700 properties per year. If you're in the room, if you photograph over 700 properties per year, give yourself a pat on the back. You're definitely in the upper echelons in terms of volume. Our next bucket are small teams. Small teams typically have 3 to 9 people on them, and they operate in what I like to call 1.5 cities. So they usually have one primary metropolitan area that they operate. They've started to branch out to a couple smaller markets around them. Typically, they'll do 2,000 to 3,000 properties per year. Your best companies in this bucket will do 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 shoots in a single metropolitan area. After that, we've got our regional photographers. These regional photographers typically have at least 15, 25 plus people on them. They've basically replicated the small team model across multiple markets here. And they'll typically do 6,000 to 8,000, sometimes 10,000 plus shoots per year. Very rarely do we see a company that is getting to 10,000 plus jobs in a single metropolitan area. At that scale, most companies are typically breaking out to multiple markets. Last but not least, we've got our national photographers. You guys know who they are. These are the VHTs, the Virtuences, the Planomatics of the world. They usually cover 20 plus markets. They've got hundreds of people on staff. And to be in this bucket, you really have to do over 50,000 shoots per year. We'll touch a little bit more on them later and what we see differentiates them in particular from the rest of the market. For this next section, we thought it'd be fun to dive into some pricing stats. What does it look like? How much are people charging around the country? What do those averages look like? Now, unfortunately, for pictures and videos, there's just such a wide range of quality and delivery and kind of standards there that we're not going to dive into those numbers. But we are going to take a look at floor plans and 3D tours. Both of these products are a bit more standardized, and there should be some interesting insights here that you can use to kind of benchmark with yourself. So up first, I'll walk through this chart. I know there's a lot of numbers for the non-numbers people. This is a histogram of price points of floor plans, just floor plans, plain 2D floor plans, that we see in the market. We surveyed thousands of photography websites. We went out and we recorded what we saw for different price points. The height of these bars, that's the number of companies we found selling floor plans at that price point. The bottom scale, that goes from $10 to $500 over on the other side. Now, you might be wondering, who's charging $500 for a floor plan? Those are the companies that usually break up their pricing by square footage. Maybe it's a 5,000, 6,000 square foot home. They're going to charge a lot more for that tier there. But generally, what we see for floor plans is that most companies are charging anywhere from $60 to $110 per floor plan. Some are charging a lot more than that, but generally that's the normal ballpark that we see for floor plans in the US. Let's take a look at 3D tours. We did this one a little bit differently. We said, hypothetically, if you were to place an order for 3D tours in the country for a 1,500 square foot, 2,500 square foot, and a 4,000 square foot home, what would that average price point look at? Do we have any guesses for a 1,500 square foot home? How much do you guys think that average price is? I hear 200. I hear 100. I think it's going to be higher than most people expect. On average, what we saw is that your 1,500 square foot 3D tour is about $240. Again, this varies market to market, but this is what we saw on average. And let's take a look at the overall distribution here. This scale is now going from $0 to $1,000. Again, the people charging $1,000 up there, that's usually for really big properties. But look at how much more even this is, and look at the drop-off. These are companies that are charging less than $150. There's not many of them. Most companies are at least $150 and higher. This is just a helpful benchmark. Every market's different. People have different pricings, but hopefully you can see what we're looking at a national level here and maybe make some adjustments, raise your prices if this is a helpful point for you. Now, this next stat, this is one of my favorite stats. This is one of the most interesting things that I found in diving into the numbers here. I'd started with the question, how do your number of customers impact your business? How do your big agents, your small agents, how does that spread impact the number of listings that you do, how much money you make per listing? This next slide's got a very busy chart. We'll walk through it one by one, though. This is a hypothetical photography company that we made up. You can scale the numbers to your own business. And each one of these bars, these little bars going across the bottom, represent a customer, a real estate agent. And what we've plotted here is the height of the bars is the number of orders they'll place per year with your business. Now, your scale might be different depending on how big your company is, but this chart, this distribution, almost always held true. Look at how many bars are just down here across the board. More than half of the bars, in fact, more than half of your customers on average usually only place 1 or 2 or 3 orders per year with your business. And then we've got the bars over here. These are the agents that are powerhouse agents. They're driving the bulk of your business. They're placing dozens of orders per year. What's the big takeaway from this? How can you apply this to your business? Here is the stat. The top 20% of your customers bring over 70% of your listings or your revenue every year. We ran this for solo photographers, for small teams, for regional photographers, for national photographers. These stats held true every time. You could be a run and gun shop. You could be a architectural. This almost always held true here. You can just scale it up and down to your business. So if you work with 100 agents, those top 20 agents, they're going to be bringing you almost always about 70% of your listings each year. Why is this important? Well, I think particularly as we head into a slowdown here, where do you want to spend your time and your resources? It's on those top 20% of your customers. Those are the people that you want to retain. Those are the people that you want to win and keep in your business. For our last couple sections, we thought it'd be interesting to go through some of the mergers and acquisitions that we've been seeing in the space. There's been a lot of activity over the last couple years here. We're going to walk through 3 of them quickly. First up, we've got our friends at Cubicasa. Cubicasa, in September of 2021, acquired by Clear Capital, an appraisal company, and AMC acquired Cubicasa, a floor plan company, a floor plan technology company. Why would an appraiser acquire a floor plan company? Well, they want to incorporate the floor plan technology into the appraisal process. I think this is a great example of what we historically have seen photographers generating for a marketing purpose being valuable to someone else in the real estate transaction. You know, your floor plans aren't just valuable to agents to promote the property, they're also valuable to the appraiser, to the insurance company, to the mortgage, etc. We're going to see a lot more of this going forward. Up next, we've got the Virtuance acquisition. Diacrit, I believe that's how you pronounce it, international company, real estate marketing software, acquired Virtuance, US photography company. I don't read into this one too much. I think they wanted to come to the US, get involved in this market. I think they also wanted to cross-sell some of their marketing services. Now, as part of this, there was a couple interesting stats that were released. Virtuance, at the time, was doing about 80,000 annual orders in their business. They had over 300 contractors and over 75 employees. Now, the interesting bit is this last stat. They'd quoted that 60% of their business came from residential market. I bet if I pulled this room right now, over 95% of your businesses would be coming from residential. 40% of their business came from institutional. iBuyers, Power Buyers, Zillow, etc. They have large contracts here. I think most people think these big companies grow because they're the cheapest photographers. I actually think it's their scale, their coverage, that allows them to go out and negotiate contracts with large companies that need this national coverage. That gives them an advantage there. That's what these big companies have been able to do that no one else has been able to do at the independent level. Last but not least, we had the Matterport acquisition of VHT. Actually, prior to this, VHT had acquired Tour Factory, and then this summer, the Matterport deal had closed. We got a lot of calls about this, a lot of questions. You know, at the end of the day, my thoughts on this is that Matterport is here to sell Matterports. That is what they've told their investors. That's what their goal is. I don't think it's Matterport getting into photography. They're just looking to sell more Matterports out there. But it's another example of photographers being valuable not just for their photography, but for their distribution channel and their access to their customer base. These are my two takeaways from all these kind of mergers and acquisitions that we see going on today. First, large photographers aren't just being bought for their photography. They're being bought for their distribution. That relationship that you have with agents, that connection there, that's valuable to sell other services as part of the real estate transaction. And secondly, I think we're going to see a lot more of this in coming years, is that photographers aren't just capturing marketing on a property. You're capturing data about that property. That data is valuable, whether it's a floor plan or a 3D tour or a video. That's not just valuable to the agent, it's valuable to a lot of other parties. We're going to see a lot more of those parties trying to get their hands into this in the coming years. Last but not least, this is what we call the battle for eyeballs. Also, a quick shout out to Noel Kleiman for the photos here. Fantastic photographer out of LA. Some of my favorite shots. Battle for eyeballs. Everyone here knows these companies. These are big companies. These companies work by getting eyeballs on their websites. They take those eyeballs, they turn them into leads, they turn them into dollars. They've built multi-billion-dollar empires doing this. We've got Zillow, Realtor.com, and the CoStar Group. CoStar, less of you may be familiar with them. They're traditionally in the commercial space. They've now committed to dethroning Zillow, and I actually think they have grander plans than that going forward. They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars every single year entering this space. Now, all three of these companies and all the other portals have an issue today. That issue is that all of their content is the same. You go to any of these sites, you pull up a property, the underlying content is the same. They're all reliant on the MLS for that content. This is a big problem for them. They are going to be differentiating their content and investing heavily to do that, to give consumers a reason that you should go to Zillow or Realtor or Homes.com, that you're not going to see stuff on the other sites. Let's take a look at what Zillow and Homes.com is doing. Zillow, a few years ago, launched free 3D tours to the market. They want access to the data of that property. They want to have a differentiated consumer experience. These are entirely free. They now get pictures, 3D tours, and floor plans. That's a valuable asset to have on a lot of homes in the US. They're also axing things like custom video uploads and trying to get more people to do these 3D tours going forward. They also spent about $500 million acquiring a company, ShowingTime, about last year or the year before that. ShowingTime runs all the showing services for real estate agents, and they're an integral part of the MLS. Zillow is going to be spending a lot of time and money to get access to more content here. Now, as of last week, actually, Zillow has formally announced they're entering the photography space. They're now employing photographers. They're going to be offering photography services direct to agents through Zillow and through ShowingTime. There's a lot to keep your eyes on here in the next couple of years. Then we got Homes.com. How many people in the room have been contacted by CoStar or Homes.com to go do photography services over the last few years? I see a couple dozen hands out there. I know a lot of people have. They're spending over $100 million just this year alone employing photographers as contractors to go around, take pictures of parks and cities and amenities, and generate exclusive local content that they're going to put on Homes.com. They're going to tell consumers across the country, go to Homes.com, come look at the pictures that you can see here that you're not going to see anywhere else. We're going to see how it goes, if this actually works for them. But this is a big bet that they're placing. They're putting a lot of money behind this as well. These are just a couple interesting things to keep an eye on. Generally, I think this is a good trend. I think photographers are going to be more important. I think your content that you generate is going to be more valuable. I think we just have to keep aware of ways to ensure that photographers are kind of kept in that discussion and are a part of this as well. Now, a few takeaways from our presentation. Takeaway number one, PFRE is now PMRE. Photographers are no longer just photographers. Photographers are full media companies. You don't just take pictures, you do 3D, you do videos, you do floor plans. Take a look at Dom stats, talk to others in the room. If you're not offering these services, there's a lot of great companies here, Cuba Casa, iGuide, many others that can help get you set up this week. Takeaway number 2, the markets are slowing. There's no doubt about this. Listings are coming down, they're coming down quickly. Focus on those top 20% of your customers. These are the customers that drive your business. These are the customers you want to win and kind of retain in the coming years. Last but not least, this is something we should keep an eye on in the coming years. There's going to be an increasing number of use cases for the content that you capture on a property, whether that's floor plans or videos or 3D tours. This content's valuable. It's applicable to a lot of other parties. I think this is going to be a great way for photographers to make a lot more money into the future. That is it. Thank you guys very much. Hopefully this was enjoyable. I will be around on the show floor for questions in the coming days, but otherwise, thank you very much.
There has got to be an easier way to create floor plans. Drawing them by hand just never seems to work, and the apps have you wandering around aimlessly without any kind of feedback. Not to mention the ever-changing pricing and slow turnaround. Finally, there's a better way. Introducing Second Floor. Simply use your iPhone to scan the interior of a home in only a few minutes. Second Floor's artificial intelligence algorithms will automatically recognize walls, windows, doors, and more while providing you with instant feedback to your progress. With real-time processing, instantly receive your finished floor plan. Feel free to edit each scan from within the app. Built-in sharing allows you to send floor plans directly to your client while still on site. That's Second Floor. With AI to recognize fixed furniture throughout the home, individual room measurements, on-screen instructions to guide you through scanning, built-in editing tools, and simple pricing for an unlimited number of scans. Second Floor is available today on the App Store for all LiDAR-equipped iPhones and iPads using iOS 16 and above. Download using offer code PMRE30 to receive a 3-month trial. Second Floor, the next evolution in floor plan technology.
I love Apply Design because it helps me realistically virtually stage any image. It's just $7 per image with no additional cost. It's a 15-minute turnaround. I get endless revisions, and if a client wants to change something, I can do that within minutes. Let me show you how it works. So I just got back from a property shoot, and my client asked me to stage 10 images. So I simply drag my images to Apply Design, wait for a couple of minutes, and then I can immediately start staging. Now in the editor, I'm going to choose a ready-made furniture bundle, drag and drop the furniture in the image, and hit the render button. It takes a few minutes for the final result to compute, so in the meantime, you can already start to stage the next image. I managed to stage 10 images in the last hour. I charged my client $35 per image. That means I made an additional $280 on this shoot. Visit applydesign.io and try your first image for free. Use coupon code PMRE22 to get a discount on your next purchase.
All right. Man, that was some great stats from Branick, huh? That was kind of blowing my mind back there. I was watching back in the green room there. So how many of us are solo shooters in the audience? Quite a few of us. And we're not just photographers, are we? We're sales, customer service, marketing department, accounting, and let's face it, we're the janitor too. I mean, come on. We all wear so many hats that make up our business. And as much as we love what we do, there's sometimes where we just want our life back. And as our business continues to grow, we come face to face with the prospect of bringing new team members on board. And if you found yourself at the crossroads of